Okay, so we're doing Sequelize review. Before we get started, I just want to see if there are any kind of burning questions out there, stuff people want to definitely get to. I'm going to try to sort of get as far as we can through all the sort of methods and stuff that you might have on a model and how to hook Sequelize into Express, stuff like that. But any burning questions out there? Yes.
Well, this is more of an overall question.
Yeah.
If you could try to remind us like which aspects as we go along are directly coming from SQLite versus Express, because I think a lot of them have become sort of conflated as we've done them together.
Cool. So which aspects are coming from Sequelize versus Express? Sort of like where's the logic living, that kind of thing?
Because I find like if I'm thinking, okay, there's something I need to be doing here, but I'm not sure if I should be looking at the Express library to find it or the SQLite library.
Okay, right. So like where do I look in the docs, that kind of thing too?
Where in the docs and which docs? You know.
That's what sorry, okay. Where do I look in the docs like
In the overarching world.
Express or Sequelize? That's a great question. Anything else? All right, so let's hop into it. So just a reminder, yes, question.
I would just say, like, I don't know. I feel like there are, like, a ton of methods in the docs. Like, I don't know if they're, like, I feel like it'd be helpful to, like, maybe if you could drop, like, I don't know, like a grab bag of, like, some of the most essential ones that,
In Sequelize specific methods?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll try to go over those Sequelize methods, definitely. Okay. Cool. So just a reminder of like the structure of our app here. We have we're logging. We've got body parsing. We just set up some static middleware, and then we've got most of the stuff in this puppies route here. So our puppies route is serving up puppies. You can get them by ID. You can get all puppies. You can update a puppy. I think you can post a puppy. You can post a new puppy. And you can get, this was just a dummy route sort of explaining why you might want multiple IDs in a route, and hopefully we're going to actually get to hooking that into Sequelize now that we've seen it with WikiStack. Okay, and then this is how we're representing puppies right now. It's just an array, and we've got this sort of schema of name, age, and fave food. And we were keeping the array index as the ID. So the goal that I'd like to do is I'd like to take these puppies, I'd like to make them into a Sequelize model, hook that model into our routes, and then hopefully get to an association. So maybe give the puppies like a favorite place or a favorite toy or something like that afterwards. Cool? All right, so what's the first step? You can just shout it out. Create a database? Great, that sounds great. So let's create DB puppies. Okay, looks like we probably have that puppy now. Puppies, yay. Okay, cool. Now we never have to touch the PSQL command line again, probably. Cool, so now that we have a puppies database, what next?
Create models.
Create models? Okay, let's do it. So should we make like a DB folder? How about that? All right, what now? Require Sequelize, okay. Probably we need to install it. All right, so we're requiring Sequelize. And now how do we actually make a database? It's always the weird one, right? So this is one of those ones that it's worth like just looking up in Google. How to start a new Sequelize. So here we go. How about getting started with Sequelize? npm install, blah, 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 blah. And here we go. We can use the new constructor. We can give it a database username and password and all this stuff. I believe we can also just give it a path to the to where we actually want to go with that database. So let's start by making a DB. And here, I have these little snippets, which is nice. So we have database, which is a string, username, string, password, string, and Sequelize.options. Really, all we need is the database right now, right? So we're going to say HTTP, or sorry, wait, what is it? Postgres, right? Postgres, uh, yes, localhost 5432, puppies. Does that seem reasonable? I say it seems reasonable for now. I actually can't remember if that's exactly where the port is, but we'll find out if it's not. Okay, now what? Let's define it. Okay. And now, what are the arguments of db.define? Okay, sounds good. So that's the name of what? The name of the model. All right, and now what? An object. And what is this object? Yeah, it's the schema, right? Okay, so what do we want for our puppies here? Okay, so name, and what is that? That is a string. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And anything else we want to allow or disallow with this?
Say allow null false.
Allow null, false. Okay.
Is there a default setting for allow null?
I believe you can set defaults a little bit more globally, but let's not worry about that right now. One thing about allow null, what does allow null not stop us from having? Empty string, yeah. How would we prevent an empty string?
We use validate.
Yeah, we can use validate, and then we just say not empty, true. So that just means that we can't have an empty string as the name of a puppy, because how would we pronounce that and call it over and pet it? All right, what besides a name? I forget actually what we had. We had age and fave food. Okay, cool. So what's age? Integer. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Anything? Let's just keep it at allow null. Let's keep allow null for now. It's good to not have null values. What else? I think we had one more thing. Fave food. And that seems like it's also probably a string. Maybe they can have a blank fave food. Maybe the puppy just likes everything, right? So maybe we don't need to allow null. Yeah.
Is there anything we can make virtual?
Anything we can make virtual?
I didn't know.
Yeah, so we could definitely do a first name and a last name. That's an easy virtual to do and a pretty common one. So maybe we'll do that. Yeah, like, exactly. Okay, so if we want to make it a virtual, what are we going to do? A getter method? Cool, where do getter methods go?
And like third option, third.
Yeah, third argument is all the options with all those crazy methods and stuff. So let's add a getter method. I love it. And we're going to say maybe full name. So what do we do in this getter method for full name? Yeah, that seems pretty good to me. All right. So we've got our basic puppy model, right? That seems pretty good to me. Now, how do we actually like do something with this? Yeah.
Actually, just for a moment, can
Sure.
you also do the alternative getter methods like in the fields?
Yes, we can do that. So this is the alternative syntax for a getter method. So that would be like this, I believe, right? So full name, and the type is a, do we have to do this? Sequelize.virtual? I forget if that's necessary, right? And then we do get, and that's a function. Let's just block that out. The get function, and it's return, I think this dot get data values, or can we just access it synchronously?
I don't think so. I think that there's some reason to do the get data values.
Yeah, it's just like the get data values is all about just it's just like it has to do with timing. It has to do with like it's just like a making sure you're not messing with the it's like a safety thing. Yeah.
It's really syntax as well, the way you
Say that again. I'm sorry.
If it's putting it on the actual instance or on the getter.
Oh, if it's putting it on the instance versus the getter methods.
Yeah, I'm saying, is it really
Oh, I believe it's purely syntax. It's kind of just how you want to define it. The reason you can't get, say, this dot full name or this dot last name is I believe that when this is like it's not an instance at that point or something like that. So you'd actually access the like this dot underscore data values if you wanted to get it without using this dot get data values. So that's kind of why they want you to use the get data values if you're defining the getter function inside the schema itself.
So I meant like the getter function actually on the instance instead of in the.
Oh, is there a I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
It's in the getter method being on the instance instead of instruction, or the get being on the instance instead of on the getter method.
And what about it? If it's purely stylistic, having this getter versus this getter, yeah, it's just how you want to define it. The other thing is you might want to do this if this virtual is going to have, like, there are instances where you do want to do this kind of getter. Like, for instance, if you want to return a value in a different way than it's stored, like if you have an array of something and you want to return it as like a string that's concatenated by spaces or something like that, then you would want the getter method here. Because it's really how you access it versus how it's stored in the database. Because otherwise you'd have to like have some sort of like underscore property and sort of access it and set it in different ways, and that would be annoying. Question.
Yeah, but isn't the whole point of having the getter method so you don't have to like overwhelm the database with
Oh, right. But since this is a sequelize.virtual, it's basically treating it the same way as this. It's not taking there is no full name column in your database because it's a virtual.
then I still don't understand then why you would do one.
Why you do this one versus this one. Say we wanted actually instead of the use cases are small is the answer, but sometimes you have to do that. Like if you want to access the data in a different way than it's stored in an actual sort of like different data type. Like if you wanted to cast it separately when you were accessing it from the database. Yes.
I think it's get data value, not
Oh, get data value. You think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we haven't actually tested any of this out yet. So, yes, question.
Small thing, I think it doesn't have to be. But so why
you.
why do we use get data value in the get method in the schema definition and not in the get method?
It's a great question. I'm not exactly sure. John might know. I'm not sure. But I believe it's that when you are with the schema definition, you don't like if you try to just do like this dot first name here. I think that this like is maybe not a full instance yet or something like this. So you would have to access the underscore data values property, which you're generally not supposed to do because it's a private thing. You should use the getters and setters to make sure that you're kind of like sanitizing.
And when you call it monologue,
When you call it in the getter methods, then it's somehow you.
it defaults to when it's finished.
I don't know exactly how it's working internally in Sequelize, and like I wouldn't worry about it too much because you should be pretty. It should be pretty easy to figure out like if Sequelize is throwing an error, if it's saying like something is undefined, that it might go in one place or another. Yeah.
There is a specific reason that sometimes if you don't use get data value and you have hooks and you adjust the data value, it becomes an infinite loop. Because like let's say you use like for example this dot set data value or something like that. If you don't use this dot set data value, it initiates an infinite loop with the hooks of like before update or like some kind of hook that you bring.
Yeah.
So if you do with this dot get data value and this dot set data value, it eliminates that infinite hook.
So you're saying if you would set a hook for like before validate and you would not use get data value, the hook would just be forever.
Yeah, you would just
Yeah.
be stuck.
Yeah, a hook, or also you could do the same thing in the getter method. You could use the get data values to do that same thing I was talking about sort of like casting in an array or as a string or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so I kind of like the getter methods better than the virtuals on the definition. So let's keep that commented out, but we'll keep it in there for reference. All right. So questions at this point? All right, great. So what do we do now? We have like defined this puppy, but like, what do we do with it?
instead of variable.
Set a variable? Okay, I like that. So we have a puppy. Export what? Okay. The whole thing, the DB.
No, just the puppy.
Okay.
We're doing a relation, right?
What's that?
You said we're doing a relation.
We're doing a relation, but we'll just start with the puppy. I think it's fine to start with the puppy. Yeah. All right. We are going to have to export this DB at some point too. Why do we have to do that? Yeah, we're going to have to sync it at some point. So let's go ahead and export that as well. And I'll leave it with the ES5 syntax right now. So we'll have a puppy and a DB on the exports from this file. All right. So, yes, question.
Also, I noticed a lot of times you put commas for like the last.
Oh,
value.
that's.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. It's just a stylistic thing.
So you can do that, and it won't say like you have the trailing comma or something.
That can be a linter thing, or it can be like some. I think some browsers might still get mad at it, but I just like it because then you can just add a new line. You don't have to actually add something to the.
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't realize.
It's like a
Okay, cool.
comments. Okay. All right. What now? What should we sync the database so that we can actually do stuff with it? I think we should. All right. Where are we going to do that? Here is our main app. So where do we sync the database? Before the server's listening? We can do that. We can also sync it in this callback function here and just not send the server anything beforehand. We can say, we can import the DB up here. Let's see, so we're requiring it from DB, and it's .db. So we can say the server is listening on port here, and then we can do a DB sync, and the .then, and we can just do, like, say we got some sort of message, and we can just say console.log, and DB is synced, like that. So when we start our server, let's see what happens. Whoops, not tests. We don't have any tests. Uh-oh. Please install PG mode manually. Do I need PG like globally installed or something?
I thought that was a dependency.
It should be. Oh, I think I didn't install after I installed Sequelize. Right? No, I did install Sequelize. What are we doing here? Oh, did I not save the database file? That could have been part of it. New Sequelize. What's that? I shouldn't have to install PG because it's a dependency of Sequelize itself. What? Yeah.
Try installing PG and PG is
Yeah, I'm gonna, let's see, Postgres dialect install PG mode module manually. Okay, fine.
yeah, I thought it was a dependency on SQL.
I might have to have it globally installed. Sorry, this is a loaner computer right now, so it's possible that that would.
Right.
Although I did all the Postgres setup, so. No. John, save us.
You got an error message. You need to
Why is this happening? DB install PG module manually. Very weird. Oh, I might just have the wrong kind of path here. I mean, that's like totally possible that we just installed, but we put it at the wrong path.
Port is right though.
5432 is right. That's what I thought. Postgres. I think I just probably wrote this the wrong way. Sorry, guys, for this great review right now. Oh, okay. I think it's not. It's. Say that again? Yeah, absolutely. Localhost local. Did I just have a misspelling? Localhost? No, I think that was okay. Install PG module manually. All right, well, let's see. That seems strange. I know, I'm getting this. Yeah. Connection manager. Oh, do I just like not have Postgres running? I could have sworn I did. That's like always the issue, isn't it? Oh man, I think it probably was the issue. Hey, okay. I'm an idiot and didn't have Postgres running.
Well, what people say is like debugging is twice as hard as writing actual code.
Yes.
So if you write code as smart as you possibly can, then by definition,
You have to be twice as smart
enough.
to debug. Right. Okay, cool. So there we go. Wow. All right. So we've got a database. I guess we probably don't have any syntax errors. Hopefully, we probably are going to need to do a force true on this that we've defined it, right? Once we get running, I'm going to take the force true out so that we don't. Once we start creating puppies, we can keep them in the database. Yes, question.
I noticed in the wiki stack that an object is passed up. There it is. So,
It's just an options object.
so if it's empty, it's the same thing
As
nothing.
I believe force is false by default. So yeah. All right. Post. Okay. Cool. So what should we do now that we've got a database? Let's do things with it. Let's bring it into our puppies router. So let's say instead of our puppies equals require puppies, we'll keep it in there so nothing breaks right now. But we'll say puppy equals require db dot puppy. So we'll have access to the puppy model now. So let's first, maybe we should start out by posting some puppies, right? Because if we get all puppies right now, like we've got nothing in the database. So let's go to our post route. And let's edit this post route and change the puppies. So I think this seems good too. Var puppy equals rec.body, yes? How do we add a puppy to our database? Okay, so puppy dot create. All right. Now what? Rec.body. And then what do we get from a creation? Poopy. What? Yeah. Here, I'm going to get rid of this because we don't actually probably need to bother with this right now. All right, what do we get back though from like what's that promise going to resolve to for puppy.create? The instance, cool. So let's. Oh, sorry, I keep writing ES6. Say that again. So the puppy would be whatever this puppy.create resolves to. Because create is the combination of a build and a save, right? So a create is an async thing that does something with the database itself. So why don't we just send the puppy back? Poopy, sorry, puppy. Let's send the puppy back. And let's try making a post request. With body, let's give it name Omri. Yeah, that's saved from last time. Do we have an age? Yes, we have an age 3, and we have a fave food is pizza. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Looks like we got some sort of error. Sequelize base error null. Uh-oh. Last name. Oh, right. We have first name and last name now. Thank you. First name is Omri, and last name is Doggo. Let's cancel that request. Let's send a new one. Oh, I think did we crash our server? Oh, we got it okay. All right. There's our puppy. Nice. So there's our Sequelize instance, right? Yes, question.
Why in this time? So I remember when we did wiki stack, we had to like match all the different elements of the rec.body.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
But when we were doing the wiki stack project, we had to match the elements of rec.body to.
Oh, you had to match the elements of rec.body to the Sequelize?
Yeah, so we do like rec.body dot or URL equals.
Oh.
body.
You don't actually need to do that because the whole rec.body is just an object with the key of like first name Omri, last name Doggo. So you can pass that whole object in, and it'll match the keys to the keys that it's looking for in the schema.
So is that just for nunjux?
You may be thinking of what you were sending back to nunjux. Yeah, where you have to build an object to res.send. You had to manually build an object. Yeah, so with Sequelize, you can just pass a whole object in for a post or an update. Yes, question. What if you don't have the same keys? Yeah, so that's like an API design issue. It's like, are you going to like worry about like handling bad data coming in? What Sequelize will do is if it gets a key it doesn't know what to do with, it will ignore it. So if I sent a request to make a new puppy that was like Damon Doggo, and I said like his mood is salty, we would get back Damon Doggo, but like Sequelize just ignores that totally. Oh, then we'll get a sequel. Well, I think we didn't require a fave food, right? So we'll get back a daemon that has no fave food. Yeah, it's null because we allowed null on fave food. Now, if we did one where we said name with a capital N, then we would get a Sequelize error because it was a null name field. So in that case, you might want to we would maybe want to do this, right? So we could send back a nice error message to people if there's a Sequelize error. Yeah, but that's a good question. I mean, that's kind of an API design thing. It's like, do you want to be really nice and sanitize all the inputs that are coming in and try to help people out who are using your API and try to make sure things are capitalized right, or do you want to write good front end routes that work with a back end well? So there's a give and take to that. Yeah. Question.
So for on line 68, do you not have to do res.json because the puppy is an object by default?
Right. So that's a good question. We could do res.send or res.json in this case. It doesn't really matter because it's an object. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're using body parser and we're using JSON encoding. So yeah. Okay. Questions before we move on? All right. Let's do it. So now that we've got some puppies in our database, let's change our router.get. So what do we want to do if we want to send all the puppies back? Puppy.findAll. Great. Then we have puppies, right? And we want to send them all back. Here's one thing you can do. If you want to be kind of slick, you can actually just bind the .send here. And so you can do a one-liner send response if you want to, which I think is a nice trick. So in this case, now if we want to get all puppies, here we go, to get all puppies. Uh-oh. What do we do? Puppy.findAll. Oh, I still have force true on the database, don't I? Whoopsie daisy. All right, so let's send some of those puppies back. Let's send Damon. Let's send Ian. And let's send Omri. And let's make another Omri that is 4 and likes kale. All right. Okay. So now I'm going to just go ahead and take this force true off now that we've got some sort of seeded data in our database. Sound good? All right, so now we've got our database back up, and we're going to send, and there we have all of our puppies, or 3 of our puppies. Maybe I didn't send the last one or something, or didn't send one in the middle. Anyway, we've got some puppies. Cool. And we've got this sending all of our puppies back. All right, what do we want to do next? There are a couple ways we could do. We could go through, we could change all of these puppy routes, and we could kind of talk more about the Sequelize. Maybe we want to let's do one more route, and then maybe we want to talk about associations or something like that. Sound reasonable? Okay. So here in router.get, let's change this one here to get the puppy by ID. Or maybe, yeah, let's change it right now to just get a puppy by ID. Sound good? How do we do it? Find one. Okay. Dot find one. And then what? What's that? Where? Matches. Yeah, rec.params.id. Yeah, we can do that. We could also use puppy.findById, and that's one of those Sequelize methods, right? So this is the same as rec. So these two will do the same thing.
But do we have an ID field in our schema?
That's a good question. So Sequelize, you've got an ID by default. It's an auto-incrementing primary key that every model is going to have. Yeah. And that's just because like you're going to have to do forward key relationships and things like that. So basically everything is given that ID by default. Yeah. Okay, so these two are the same. I like find by ID, although you know what? Let's keep the where in there actually because we can see the syntax of this where. Okay, and then what? Yeah, we'll show the alternate way of doing this, which is res.send puppy. And then we can always catch it at the end with next. All right, so now let's try to get puppy1. There we go, and we got puppy1. All right, seem reasonable? Yes.
How often does it sync?
How often does it sync? I have NodeMon on, so it's syncing every time I save a file. Yeah. It syncs whenever it starts the database because I have the sync right here. Is that what you mean, or do you mean?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yes.
With the find one, if the rec.params.id
Say that again.
if rec.params.id was not defined, it would just not return the
The question was if rec.params.id was not defined. So the question, I can't really get a rec.params.id is not defined because it's right there at that thing. But you mean if it's not in the database, then we'll get this Sequelize error. Yeah, with that there's an invalid input syntax because it's not an integer. Which is fine because you know we wanted to actually send the error itself, which is you know what we're sending here. So, yes.
And what will the response be if you put a number that just isn't?
A number that isn't there. That's a great question. So we don't have the puppy 15. What do we get? We get back nothing.
It's not an error.
It's not an error. I mean, we could certainly say like you know if sorry in we could say here like if not puppy. Oh my gosh, sorry. Whoa. If not puppy, oh my god. Sorry, it's hard to do this, guys. Trust me. If not puppy, we could say like res.body. We could just res.send like not found. Find like a non-existent puppy. So we can certainly like do that sort of thing in our route. Let's see what happens now. Oh, it just wants to, yeah, we get the not found back then, right? Because this will be it's either undefined or I think it's null back from Sequelize if the row doesn't exist when you're finding by ID. Yeah, can't remember if it's null or undefined. Doesn't matter. It's falsy, so you can check against it. Yes, question.
So if not finding a puppy doesn't constitute an error, what is an error?
Well, so not finding something in the database is not an error because the database is just like, I didn't find it. You know, like your query returned no results, essentially. An error is something like I'm looking for an ID that is a different data type. Or I'm trying to update a puppy and I'm giving it bad data types or something like that. Not found is just like your query returned no results, sorry. Which is what you would want your database to say, right? You wouldn't want it to be like, I can't find anything, like, blow it all up, right? Like that would be a bad database. So, okay, cool. What do we want to do next? Let's add some, I think maybe we should go back and take a look more at our model just because I think we know kind of like how we could refactor the Express stuff from here, right? Anybody have any like big questions about doing the rest of the routes if we had to? Yes. Yes. Yeah, this thing here. Yeah, this is just because this. Then you can put the whole callback. Don't like worry too much about this. Yeah. The alternative to this? Oh, just to say like we have a result and then we like res.send the result. It's the same thing. It's kind of the same thing you were doing in the pledge workshop. Oh, sorry, this is ESX. It's fine because I'm going to go back to this anyway. It's like a slick way that you can bind the response here so that in the callback function in the promise, like it resolves correctly. Yeah, but it's a way that you can write very short routes. Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? One thing that is a little bit weird is updating in Sequelize. So if we have time, I'd like to come back to this route, but I want to make sure we talk about like getter, about some of the other like instance and class methods and stuff like that. Does that seem reasonable? Yes. Cool. If we don't get to it, check out Sequelize.update or model.update and just check out like what it returns, how it deals with stuff like that. That's one of those things that's always a sticking point because most Sequelize queries or most Sequelize methods, model methods will return like a nice instances or like an array of instances or an instance, and it's kind of like nice and easy to play with. Update's a little bit weird because it gives you some extra information. So just look into it if we don't get to it. Cool? All right. Let's check out some other, all right, we actually don't need these puppies anymore, which is nice. So we've got a getter method. Let's write some other methods here. Who wants to write some kind of method? All right, let's write an instance method. Instance methods. All right, so what might a reasonable instance method for this puppy be? How about we have an instance method where it just say fave food. So how would you get a puppy instance to say its favorite food? Or maybe let's go with the classic. Let's say greet, right? That's one we always like to put on these things. So what's this instance method for this puppy for greeting? Returns a string. Okay. Woof. My name is, then what? This dot full name? Cool. Yeah, let's see. All right. So so we don't have to get too crazy about it. Let's go back to our route here, and in our puppy.find1, let's before we send the puppy, actually, let's make the puppy talk to the server. And let's say puppy.greet. So here, if we go to get puppy1, we should. What's that? Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. It's not console logging. It's, thank you. Woof, my name is Damon Doggo. Cool. Which is cool, too, because we can actually use things like virtuals and getters inside the instance methods. It's nice, right? We don't need to, like, repeat ourselves there. Yes, question?
Also, like, so you could use that, I mean, to, like, make a function based off of what a parameter is. Like, I mean, this is really...
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Okay, the only thing I can think of is a really crass example, but like you could like see if it like takes a shit or something if based on what it's eating. You know, like you could say, so you can do something where the function like return if fave food equals something. You know?
Yes, you can do whatever you want with an instance method. No, yeah. So you could. It's a way. A use case is. A use case is to do something with, like, to give the thing that's returned by the database a way to do something, right? So, like, in WikiStack, you used it for truncating an article or, like, changing an article's text, like, doing markdown to HTML, things like that, right? So, you know, in this case, like, there's not a lot of useful things that we can have the puppy instance do, so I just went with greet. But if you're getting to, like, more complicated data or, like
pricing math?
Yeah, pricing math, stuff like that, absolutely.
And, like, the
Yeah.
quantity of your order and whatnot.
Address formatting, like stuff like that is a good good way of doing instance method. You could say like, format as postal address, like format as one line address. You can kind of give it these things that give,
Or
yeah.
taking a ship.
Yeah, or that, yeah.
But how would that differ from hook then?
How would it differ from hook? Because it's not related to like a validation. It's not related to like how it's saving or returning from the database. It's that like when you get that stuff, say you got a whole array of addresses from the database, but you wanted an API endpoint where somebody could get all the addresses formatted in a certain way, right? You could have instance methods on those things so that you get them in one format or another. There's use cases for all these things, and it really kind of depends on how you're designing your API and how you're thinking about the way the API and the server and the database are interacting. Yes, question.
So right now, it looks like getter methods and instance methods does the exact same thing.
Right. So the getter method, what the difference between the getter method and the instance method is this full name is going to come back as a key value pair on our instance itself, whereas the instance method is then something it can do. Yeah, but the getter method actually is a virtual, so when you retrieve it, it looks like it's part of the actual the data, like part of the record itself, but it's not being stored anywhere in the database. It's just like when the query is made, it's like attaching this other key value pair onto the instance and sending it back with the query.
Does it take up more space or something? Let's say like there's a million or like 10 million,
10 million puppies in here? Yeah.
Wouldn't that virtual?
The virtual is like a sequelize method so that when a query happens, it does that function and returns those things with it. So it's taking up it's a space versus query time trade-off, right? If you had 1 million puppies, you would have to have 1 million rows of the full name column if you wanted to store a full name, and you'd have to have some sort of hook where every time you updated a first name, it would also update the full name of the puppy and vice versa. What the getter method does is it maybe adds a very minuscule amount of time to the query, but it saves you the space because nothing's actually getting stored in the database except for one copy of that function, basically.
What about compared to having the full name in the instance methods?
Compared to having the full name in the instance methods, that's also fine. Like if you only wanted to get full names of something by attaching an instance method to all of them, then you get these instance methods returned with each one, as opposed to having it on a key. So it's a matter of like, do you want this always to get returned when you want to return all columns? Like, do you want it to look like a column when you query the database? Or do you want it to be something that you can retrieve specific to an instance when you query it? Does that make sense? Yeah. For all intents and purposes, like if I were an API user, I wouldn't know that full name didn't actually exist in the Sequelize database because it would always come back to me when I queried the database. Yes.
So if you move full name to instance methods,
Uh-huh.
when you run it, it's not going to show up in the database, right?
Right. You would have to get the instance back and then invoke its .fullname method to get whatever full name would return. So we can do it really quickly. Let's not have a getter method. Let's say full, but let's do this. Sorry, I should probably have done it before I commented it. So let's check the difference here. Here, let's go back to the puppy router. I'm going to do puppy.fullname. And then when we get Damon Doggo, we'll see he has no full name on the record that we get back, but Damon Doggo can log out. Like we can invoke that function and get it. So since full name is like kind of a nice thing to always have access to, in this case, I think it's good for us to keep it on as a getter method.
So can you run queries using the getter method?
Can you run queries using the getter methods? Oh, could you query by full name? Yeah, definitely. Because it's treated as if it is if it's a column in the database. Because Sequelize can find those functions, but it's not taking up space. So it's just a method versus a space thing. If you've got something that you can calculate from two other things, it takes up a lot of extra space to have another column. It doesn't take up any extra space to have a function you can run to get that thing every time. If the function's always going to be the same, like if you always have a full price or like a final price, which is like tax plus pre-tax, you could just have a getter method for after tax which just adds those two things together, as opposed to taking up all the storage space of another column. Yes, question.
So why would it be a bad idea to just have your database be all virtuals?
Why would it be a bad idea to have what?
Like your database just be all virtuals.
Have it be all virtuals? Because at some point you need to like actually store some data in it for to base the virtuals off of, right? Like you can't get a full name if you don't have a first name and a last name column, right? You can't get like a tax if you don't have like a tax rate and a subtotal, you know. So at some point you need like something to base the virtuals off of. Because what virtuals do is they take, generally like the use case for virtuals, you're taking information from some other columns for that row, and you're doing something with them to like get another value. Whether it's concatenating two strings, whether it's multiplication, whether it's like running some algorithm or something. But like a virtual is just a way of getting some other information that could be based on something else. But then you're not making the end user have to calculate tax, right? You're not making, they can just get a whole order or something like that. Okay, I'd like to move on past the instance methods and virtuals real quick. I want to make sure we get to a couple more things. We only have 10 minutes left. Is that cool? Can we just do a quick class method? And I'm like available for questions after this, but you have, I think, a review video and stuff. So let's write a class method. What's the use case for a class method? This one to me is a little bit like more obtuse, perhaps. Yes, question or answer.
I think of this as just something where you want to query the entire database. So like if you want to find names by tag, you need to look at all the tags.
Yeah, so something where you want to query the whole database, and that's great. Like this, a really good use case for a class method is writing like a custom find, essentially. So you could say like this dot find all. So maybe we want to make a class method which is like find by fave food, and it's a function. And it's this dot find all, and let's return this promise. This dot find all where fave food. So this will take a food where fave food matches this food. So this is just like a custom getter. Like so now we can say puppy dot find by fave food pizza. Say that. Oh, if you want to count all puppies, yeah, that's not bad. So like we want count, that could be function here, and we just say return this dot. We want to return a promise, yeah. So this dot find all dot then, and this will be we'll get all the puppies back, and then we want to just return puppies dot length. So that'll give us all the puppies, right? So this promise will, because puppies will be, we'll get an array of puppies back from find all, and so we should just be able to wait. What's my syntax error here? Thank you. Yes, question or something.
I'm pretty sure there's a built-in Sequelize count.
There is, but you could do other things besides. I mean, this is just an example of something else you might want to do if you're not actually trying to get an instance back, but like get some other data, like metadata about your puppies model or something. Yes.
Just a quick sanity check for the class methods. The context of the this keyword
Yes.
returns to the model on a particular instance.
Yes, this refers to class in class methods.
I can send out a note about that because
Yes.
we got sent out like all these things about the this context
Yeah.
and different Sequelize methods. So I'll find that on my computer
Yeah.
and send it out because it's very hard to remember in between methods what this is referring to.
Yeah, so this refers to instance in instance methods. This refers to instance in a getter method. One thing, and I'm just gonna add it real quick. I can't. If anybody can think of a good hook to write for this, we can do that. But one thing about this in hooks, this refers to the class, but the instance is first argument, oh my god, argument of any hook function. So if we wrote like a hook, like a before validate, let's just write one. Puppy. the puppy here is going to be the instance that we're validating. So we could say, before we validate a puppy, we want to just, do you return false from a hook if you don't validate it? What do you actually return from? Now I can't remember. Anyway, let's just say that
I don't think you have to specify that. I think you just check.
it's just, oh, you do a validate?
That's like a wiki set.
Yeah, I can't remember. We could certainly look it up. Sequelize hooks. Hooks.
This is an example of what you all should be doing.
Yes. And here, you can just see too, like the instance or instances is like, these definitions of hooks are really helpful. So declaring hooks before validate function user.mood. Oh, okay, we just changed it. So maybe we just want to before validate that says like puppy dot. Let's just add one more thing here. Let's add a mood. And so we can just say before we validate, we say puppy.mood equals super happy about Sequelize. So that we're just setting the property of that. So let's just add a new puppy real quick. Let's add Sam. His favorite food is buffalo chicken. Uh-oh. Looks like we call a mood of, oh, dang it. Can't do that because I don't want to force true. Because I don't want to get rid of all our adorable puppies. So let's just say this puppy.fave food, we're just going to always make our fave food buffalo chicken pizza. So now if I add a new puppy, and it's Sam, we have Sam, and his fave food is null. Oh, because I probably didn't have this synced properly. Interesting. What am I not doing correctly? Before save? Oh, maybe. No, because we're altering the instance itself. What do we see here? Method.to by the hook. Oh, this is in the dot hook. Sorry, if we're user.mood. Yeah, that's so weird. This seems like we should be able to set the dot mood of this thing. Very interesting. Username. Huh.
Well, what's the before validate versus after?
Before validate versus after validate. Yeah. So it just has to happen with like where they run. If you can see the order of operations here with how hooks run. Before bulk, so validation is that thing that has to happen before it will actually save to the database. Yeah, and that checks your allow nulls, your validations in your schema and stuff. Yes, Chloe.
I think it can be hooks, not just hooks.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Good catch. Yes. Okay. So it's a hook, and it's before validate hook, right? Because it was just ignoring this hook thing it didn't know what to deal with. And there's Sam, and he likes buffalo chicken pizza. Yes. Don't we all? Yes.
And that would override whatever you put down.
That would override, yeah. If I wanted to go back and sync the database and actually add a mood and put set the mood to something every time we validated, hooks are just another way of sort of doing something based on life cycle events of something in the database of an
But I
instance.
mean, so regardless of what the user then puts in for their favorite food, it's going to default.
Yeah, regardless of what is entered for pay food, it's going to default to this. And this is a bad use case. I was just kind of trying to come up with something super fast that I could try to do. If you wanted to actually set a default value, it would be much better to set a default value up here in your actual definition. So we could, for instance, first name and last name, age, allow null false. We could say here default value is 1. Is that right? Default value. Oh, okay. No, I think that did work. So now if we make a Sam that doesn't have an age, I think this should make him have a default value age of 1. So if you've got defaults, don't do it in a hook like I did. I'll try and think of a better use case to put in here before I actually send it out to you all. All right, we did not get to associations, so I'm sorry about that. Important thing about associations, how do you create them? Well, let's just say we had a user right now. Not a user, park. So each puppy goes to one park. So how would we associate those things? we could say puppy dot belongs to, right? Park. So that's, what is that going to do?
That'll link your tables for your
It'll link your tables. What does it actually do? Like, belongs to. Like, what does linking tables mean in this case?
It creates a foreign key.
Yeah. When you use belongs to, it creates a foreign key in the puppy model that relates to the primary key of the park model. That's what belongs to does. The opposite is has one, and it has to do with where it puts the foreign key. I find belongs to be much more useful than has one, unless you really find like you need the keys in both places. But even though it seems weird that like a puppy belongs to a park or like a user belongs to an article or something like that, like it's really just about where that key is going to go. What it will do is it will give you also the methods, the like set park or get park or things like that. So it gives you those magic methods. But all of those are just aliases for like setting an ID or retrieving by ID where the IDs match or something like that. They're just these magic methods that Sequelize gives you. One thing in the docs that I want to point out, which I find confusing, but now that I understand it, kind of makes sense. Just remember that in the Sequelize docs, you've got two parts. You've got this sort of like guide of how to set up models and how to use them and like query them and stuff like that. And the data types, these are all super useful. The API stuff down here has a lot more about the association. So if we look to belongs to here, this is like, the docs can be super annoying. It's like, what does this promise resolve to? Like, you know, when you set association, it returns a promise. What is that promise for? Like, I have no idea. So the docs can be really frustrating in that way, and I totally get it. But whenever they use the word association here, that is an alias for like what your model is actually called. So if you said puppy.belongs to park, the set association means set park. That is the thing that it's going to put on your model. It's going to put a set park. It is going to put a get park. It is going to put a create whatever, right? So that's just one thing about Sequelize. Like, it does a lot of renaming. It does a lot of weird things with like plural versus singular. That it's trying to be easier to read, but as a programmer, it's confusing because you're like, wait, where is this name coming from? Like, where is this thing coming from? So don't be like too weirded out by the magic that Sequelize is doing. It really is all based on like these actual words that you're defining and the variable names that you're defining for your models. Does that make sense? I think I need to wrap up. Any last questions? Yes.
So that would be like, when you say create park then?
Create park creates a new instance of the associated model and associate it with this.
But I just mean, so like where it says association.
Yeah, you would create park, and that would create a new park and put a foreign key in that current puppies.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to get a puppy, and then you have to do puppy.createPark.
Yeah.
All the like sort of body of the park, all the key value pairs of the park. That will create a new park in the database, in the park table, and it will give the foreign key of that newly created park to the puppy.
And then you'll have the get park and set park methods and like.
Well, get park and set park are on the instance of puppy that's returned. So you'd be able to get that puppy's park
Those
then.
are dynamically named too.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
one word.
What's that?
Just like it would just be create park.
It would be, yes, it would be create park. The values here would be the actual like object that you would pass to park.create.
Yeah.
I have never used create, so don't worry about it. Like, I have never had to from a puppy create a park or like from a use, like, it seems overly
It's more like
complicated.
the get author, set
Yeah.
author methods that you
Yeah.
had in the workshop.
Getters and setters are
Those
much
will be
more
dynamically
useful.
named as well.
Yeah.
Get book, set book.
And that'll also be dynamically named based on the alias.
Right.
So if I say the second thing, if I say like as fave park, you'll have a puppy.get fave park, puppy.set fave park, that kind of thing. Yes.
You really quickly
Talk about what? Through? Oh, with like through tables here? I think that's going to get overly complicated. I think I can confidently say that you do not need that for the Express-Sequelize checkpoint. I think I'm not going to ruin
I
anything.
don't even really know.
Yeah, through you might use on Grace Shopper.
Yeah.
But like,
You'll be fine. Yeah.
no, don't worry about through tables right now. Focus on getting the associations down. One other thing about the set author and get author, those return promises. Those are async and return promises. So just be careful with that. If you yeah. Okay. Thank you all. I will comment this code out a little bit more, see if I can finish it up, and then I will It's the same GitHub repo, but I'll put up the video and everything and send it out to you.